Hello, Internet. It's finally that time again where I get to talk about the 3DS. So, today I'm really excited to share with you guys my top 10 classic games to buy on the 3DS eShop before the eShop sadly goes away forever. My first pick is the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Really, you can't go wrong with any of the eShop Zelda games. Shout out to Ocarina of Time, of course, but I feel like a lot of people know Ocarina. And while I see plenty of buzz online for the Oracle games, I don't think they get as much love, so that's why I'm giving them a shout out. I am just trying to lump together any franchises because otherwise we could be here all day. Oracle of Ages and Seasons is really great. They are Game Boy Color games, and they actually are two Zelda games that were made to link up together using the Game Boy Link cable, and they even kept that functionality in the eShop version. So right now I'm playing through Oracle of Ages, and when I play Oracle of Seasons, I'll be able to get all of the different things that carry over between the two games unlocked on my system. So I do believe it's mostly small things, like a baby that you can name, and I think some items can be traded back and forth. I am really, really excited to see what kind of stuff ends up unlocking and how it affects the game. Beyond that, they're just gorgeous, especially for Game Boy Color games. They've got these cutscenes in between them where they've just got the best pixel art, and I really love the art direction. It's really, really cute, really cozy, super fun. I've only played through a little bit so far, but I absolutely love it. Definitely one to pick up if you like Zelda games or cute pixel art, so highly recommend both Oracle games. The next is going to be the original Shantae. Well, I recently realized that you can actually buy this on the Switch. I still think that the eShop versions of all of these portable games just feel a little bit more right. I do play all of my eShop games on the native pixel mode, so I just sort of keep select down when they come up, and then it does bring up a big, like, actual Game Boy, and you can, if you have a 3DS, not a 2DS, you can use the slider to make it look like it's kind of sunken into the Game Boy like the originals, and they are so cute. It's one of those games that's always great to see re-released, because it's the definition of a cult classic. This was one of those games that was an indie way before those were common, and in fact had to be printed on a cartridge. So this small team made this game. It really tests like the Game Boy Color's limits. Really, really cute, a ton of personality. You get to play as a half genie who whips her hair at enemies and is fighting like a sexy pirate lady named Risky Boots, and trying to save the world and go to various kingdoms. It is a pixel platformer, and with a lot of combat, and it is really, really fun. I feel like a lot of these games I haven't really sat down and finished, but I still think since the eShop is closing, I want to get as many of these games as possible so that when I want to play through my backlog, which of course is the theme of this summer actually for me, I'm doing a full backlog play, so these are games that I am excited to have on my backlog and we'll be playing through. So far, I absolutely love Shantae, and it is a cult classic, and if you don't know, it's spawned a whole series of games that really came into their own on the 3DS in eShop, and I feel like there's another Switch game coming out. So yeah, awesome series. It's really fun to see where it all began, and seriously, it looks great for Game Boy Color. Kirby's Adventure from the 3D Classics line. This is another one that Nintendo Life really turned me on to, and this is the 3DS Classics line. When the 3DS first became available and they were really pushing the 3DS, they got a company to do full remakes or like rebuilds of all of these games. So instead of being ports, they are native run, they've got widescreen, they're made to have absolutely perfect 3D. All the colors really, really pop for all of this series. I've got Kid Icarus and Excite Bike and Poppin' Twinbee. Or no, the just original Twinbee, and they all look really great, but the standout by so much is the original Kirby's Adventure. Not only do the colors look great, this game, because it is native, it's gotten rid of all of the slowdown, all of the chug from being on such limited hardware originally. And this was always such an ambitious game, and it just looks great, and it plays amazing, and I feel like once you're playing on the 3DS remake, it has not aged a day. This game stands up. This is one that I've fully beaten, and it is an absolute delight. Do not let this get away from you. It is so, so, so cute. I'm probably gonna get every single one of the 3DS classics. I think I just need Excitebike. I absolutely love Kirby, and this has been one of my favorite ones to play. Next is gonna be Donkey Kong 94. I know there's a lot of Game Boy Color games, but I feel like that's been what I've really, really enjoyed exploring in kind of recently, because I don't see them re-released very often. And I've been watching a ton of videos that then talk about all of these games, and I get to actually play them. And one is the underappreciated Donkey Kong 94. This game is like a sequel to the original Donkey Kong arcade games, and it is super fun. It is expanded past where the arcade game would have just ended, and then it has all kinds of interesting, like, themed levels and gimmicks and mechanics all going into just the simple ladder climbing kind of arcade mode. And it is so much fun. I really like this game. I think I'm almost all the way through, and I probably need to sit down and just replay it from the beginning. This is another game that's aged really, really well, getting to still, even in black and white, just play through, like, what if instead of Mario Brothers, we got a Donkey Kong sequel, and honestly, it just makes me want a full surprise Switch game based on Donkey Kong, like, original arcade stuff, and see where that would land you. A bunch of, like, really climbing, jumping over barrels, that kind of mechanic get to be more fully realized. It is just such an interesting game. The next one on my list is EarthBound. While I know that these games just came out for the Switch, finally, I still love having a copy of this on my 3DS. I think it looks really, really great. And since it is part of the online services right now, I just like knowing that I own a copy, you know? Again, the theme of this month is backlog. This one is so on my backlog. I know it's a complete cult classic, but I also know that it's going to be a big commitment of a game, and I want to give it the full respect it deserves. So it's definitely one that I'm happy to have on 3DS. It looks really great on there, and yeah, I just think that it's one that I want to own and not rent, and I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way. So if you haven't grabbed EarthBound for the 3DS, and I need to grab, I believe it's called EarthBound Beginnings. That's one I'm also going to make sure to get before the eShop closes. If you want to be able to hang on to these guys, I would highly recommend them. The next is going to be Pokemon Crystal. I just don't think enough people appreciate they can get all of the original Game Boy Pokemon games on the virtual shop. I know that was one of the major reasons that I bought this system, and I think it's so cool. I only have Pokemon Crystal right now. I'm going to be sure to grab all versions before the eShop shuts down, because I just love knowing I can play that anytime that I want to without having to bust out original hardware. But more than that, they've actually kept a bunch of the original functionalities. So you can mystery gift, you can trade with other players, and I think at least some of it online, and I know that you can use any Pokemon, you can add them to Pokemon Box, which I think is awesome. So I just think these are really great ports of these games. They look great on 3DS again. I really love pixel art games on the 3DS, and I think that blowing these games up too much bigger is going to look a little bit strange. So I'm be sure to grab all the Pokemon games if you don't have them already. The next is going to be Super Mario Land 2. This is another one that I got to see videos about and was really excited when I could finally actually play it, because it got a re-release. Something that Nintendo just isn't that good about for some reason. Super Mario Land 2 is a really interesting game. It's not done by Shigeru Miyamoto. It has a completely different designer. It's made by the people who actually designed the Game Boy's hardware, and it's kind of a different look at the series. This is where we get both Daisy and Wario, and it's got a whole bunch of just crazy level themes. One world is just a Mario robot. There's space levels. It's got a really cute overworld like the Super NES game, and it's just really good, especially for a platformer on a Game Boy game. It is definitely underappreciated in the series, almost certainly because they don't really re-release a lot of these old portable games, so for sure, one to keep on your 3DS, especially because it is always a portable game, so it's one that I like to just pick up and play for a while if I find myself waiting around with my 3DS. It's also just a cool piece of Mario history, and I really like getting to connect with the series in that way. The next is gonna be Dark Void Zero. I know this isn't... See, the thing about this list that I had a long debate about is whether this was really counting as a classic game. This is actually a game that was made as a demake to promote the Dark Void, a forgotten kind of generic Xbox 360 dark and gritty era game. So looking at the Metacritic scores or whatever, you can see that, like, overwhelmingly people loved Dark Void Zero and did not care about Dark Void. So this is a demake, and it's made as if it's an old NES cartridge that they found and they said they had never released. And it even has like it even has a little screen that tells you to like blow on the cartridge, and it's an NES game. But it was actually made during the 2010s. And when I got it, I didn't know that much about it. I knew it was on DSiWare, and I'd never heard of Dark Void, so I didn't know that it was a demake. It was really early in the demake trend, so even at the time they were calling it like a parody instead of just like a throwback. So I thought that was kind of cool. And at this point, the game is now over like 10-15 years old. So while it's not actually an NES game, it is a piece of DSiWare not on the eShop, and I just thought that's really cool. And somehow it manages to be like a couple of different layers of video game history all in one. I haven't said what the game is. The game is actually pretty cool. You play as a guy with a jetpack, and it's like a kind of a Metroidvania where you unlock you try and find different keys, you gain different abilities, and you fly around on a jetpack and shoot aliens. And it looks really great. It's got a really, really cool icon, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun to play around in, and I'd highly recommend grabbing it if you have not already. Is another Game Boy Color game. I'm so sorry, but it is Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. I just love this series of games. I grew up on Pokemon Puzzle League. My mom loved puzzle games, so I would always challenge her because I love Pokemon and she loved puzzle games, and it was the one game we could really agree on. It just screams like summer of my childhood to me. Like, I would come back from the pool and then play, hours of Pokemon Puzzle League. This is almost a demake in itself. It came out alongside Pokemon Puzzle League, but while Pokemon Puzzle League was based on the 4Kids dub of the anime, which is nostalgic and fun in its own way. Pokemon Puzzle Challenge was based on the Game Boy Color games, and so it has a much more appealing to a broad audience kind of art direction, where it uses a bunch of the original songs from the games instead of midis of the 4Kids anime songs, and it uses really cute sprites. It has a little adventure mode even, and you can go around battling the gym leaders in a puzzle challenge and unlocking new Pokemon to battle each other with. And as far as just pure nostalgia and games that I really like having around, this has got to be one of my favorites. Shout out to a pretty similar, there's also a Kirby version of this. I believe it's called Kirby's Falling Stars, but I find it a little bit slow for my taste. It has different mechanics that are really cool, and you can play, and some of the blocks are Rick the Hamster, which is pretty A+. However, as far as what I consider like that just perfect gameplay flow that I get from certain puzzle games, I highly recommend Pokemon uh, Puzzle Challenge above it, but you know, your taste is gonna vary and you can fight me in the comments. Okay, and then the final game on my list, which was in no particular order, I just didn't want to go through endless amounts of Game Boy Color games, is the mysterious Murasami Castle. This is an actual 3DS game, and another piece of cool Nintendo history that I learned on YouTube and wanted to pass along. This is actually a game released only in Japan and using the original Zelda game's engine. Instead of being a freeform exploration, though, it's a pure fighting game. You do play as a ninja trying to make his way into the mysterious Murasami Castle. You get a number of weapons, and you're against a huge onslaught of ninjas. I'm terrible at this game, truly. But the gameplay is really, really fun and unique, and I love the art direction, and I also just think it's so cool to see a game that was never released outside of Japan get released here, especially one made by the Zelda team and using the Zelda engine. This is also featured in, that Wii game made by the Chibi Robo people that's also Japan only, and is a Wii game called, I believe, Captain Rainbow, where there's a whole island of, like, unloved Nintendo characters. He's the lead character in Murasami Castle is the lead in that game. So, again, there's a whole world of strange Nintendo history, and I really appreciate the way that the 3DS eShop has let me experience a bunch of its history that I wouldn't have gotten to play if I merely had to collect the real physical cartridges, since I don't know if I like any of these games well enough to pay more like $40, $50 to keep them on my shelf. But, except Pokemon Crystal, it's right here. But I've loved getting to play these games and collect them. Please leave suggestions in the comments. I'll probably do another couple videos of stuff that I grabbed on the eShop and recommend, and another retrospective before the eShop closes in August, just because I've really loved the year and a half that I've gotten to have with it, and I want to share that with all of you guys. So, thank you so much for watching my roundup of classic games on the 3DS that you should buy, and I will see you in the next one. Please subscribe. Bye.